Hi, girls, and welcome to a brand new episode of the pod. This one today is titled Kids, Turn the Volume Down, Shut Your Ears. My five biggest fuck ups. And it's the five biggest regrets that I have when I look back and think about how I got to the point where I had a completely messed up relationship with my body, food, and exercise. So, how did I get there? And what were the five like pivotal, monumental moments and things that I did where I look back now and go, oh my God. Now, the reason I was thinking about this is because I was writing an article about body image, and obviously it's a huge part of what I do. So, with the women who I coach, a lot of them, the majority are like ex-yo-yo dieters who've had a really messed up relationship with their body, food, exercise over the years. And then they kind of get to a point in their 40s and 50s where they're like, I've had enough. I've had enough of doing everything I can to try and make my body smaller, thinner, lighter. I want to focus on health and feeling better. But when you've messed up your body image so monumentally, it's not as easy as it sounds. You know, it's easier said than done to be like, right, I'm going to start thinking differently and behaving differently. So we have to look back at kind of how much effort and graft we put into fucking things up in the first place before we can get a good idea of how long it's going to take to unpick all the mess. So when I was writing this article, I realised that I dieted or engaged in like diet behaviours for 12 years. So I've spent 11 years repairing the damage, and I'm now in a place where I'm 38, I'm completely comfortable in my body, I train with consistency, I eat well, I think positive thoughts about my body. You know, that's where I am now after 11 years of unpicking all the shit, but it took me 12 years to get into the mess in the first place. So interesting. And like I say, when I kind of was writing the article, I thought, right, where did it all go wrong? What were the things that I did where, looking back now, I absolutely cringe and think, God, I wish I could go in and speak to young girls and tell them definitely don't do these things. And there were significantly more than five examples, right? When I was like writing the list, I thought, shit, I have done some crazy, messed up, wacky business. With the goal of weighing less and keeping my body small, light, thin. But if I had to pick five, what would I do? So here's my five. I wonder how many you can relate to in no particular order of fucking stupidity, right? So one of the sort of biggest moments I can remember, something that kind of switched and changed the way I viewed my body, was when I was 19 and I first went to a slimming club. So I turned up at some village hall near Lancaster because that's where I went to uni. So I was like 19, impressionable, literally, I think first year at university student. So first time I was like cooking for myself and stuff. Went along to this slimming club, got weighed. Then there was discussion around like a goal weight, and other people in the room were talking about like what they'd lost. Their success was being measured on what they'd lost. And I left that hall that day thinking a few things, right? One was I had to now go after a goal weight. So all of my behaviours were about weighing less. The second thing was that my value was now attached to that weight. So whether I was in my head at the time like attractive, successful was based on this goal weight that I wanted to go after. And then the other thing that switched there and then was this idea of foods being like good or bad. So are these foods going to like help you hit this goal weight or hinder you? So it started for me to like demonize foods and cause me to start seeing them as categories like good, bad, wrong, right. So that was the first thing. And I thought, yeah, that was pretty monumental and pretty fucked up when I look back at it. And that's kind of where a lot of the messed up thoughts about my body and food started. Another thing that I think was a biggie for me was the craze that seemed to go boom in my early 20s of celebrity fitness DVDs. So when I thought, right, I Googled it and I'd forgotten how many I bought, I was like, wow. So it was women who were like my age or a bit older than me who'd done transformations where there was like, a picture of them of like a size, I don't know, 14 and then a size 6 stood there in the lycra. Um, And it was always about fat loss and weighing less. So these like shreds and bikini blitzes and follow this celebrity as she's embarked on this journey. And now the interesting bit is I follow some of those women now on social media who are now all, part of the body positivity movement and admitting that they had eating disorders then. So those women I aspired to be like now are saying, God, I had a really disordered relationship with food, my body, whatever. But that was the next thing I did. Bought into every celebrity workout DVD you could think of. So, like I said, Googling it, I was like, right, Vicky Pattinson. There was like somebody from Coral. I think there was a Patsy Palmer one. Um, there was a girl from Emmerdale. I used to do that one probably 5 mornings a week. But everything was about burning calories. Calorie burn, calorie burn. That was, in my head then, that was the next monumental thing where exercise meant burning calories. That's the reason you exercise, is to make your body weigh less. Not because it helps you produce dopamine, the happy hormone, and supports mental health. Not because it supports your cardiovascular health, not because it helps you, maintain strong bones and joints and muscles, any of these things that I now train for, the reasons I now train, it was always because I wanted to weigh less and my body had to be smaller. So that was the second kind of big thing that I thought, whoa, yeah, I did that in my early 20s. Um, the next thing was, I think it was sort of the explosion of the internet at around that age for me. So the first, second, third years at uni was when everybody had a phone and access to the internet. So I started to take diet advice, nutrition advice, exercise advice from Google and Amazon rather than from trained professionals. So you name it, I tried it. Every stupid fad out there, I tried it because I was reading it on Google and on Amazon and reading shitty reviews on Amazon and then buying all sorts of crap that was saying it was going to speed up my metabolism, burn fat, everything again with that focus on weighing less, weighing less, weighing less. Or at sometimes I would get to the goal weight and then it was obviously maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. What I now know looking back is I remember getting to the goal weight on a number of occasions because it was never sustainable. So then I would go up again. I was never happy at the goal weight. I was never like bursting my body confidence. I'd actually body check more when I was smaller. So I'd be like looking at my reflection, checking photographs, looking in the mirror, pinching different parts of my body. So that's what body checking is. I'd do that more when I was lighter, which is interesting. So that was kind of the third thing I did. Internet, Google, Amazon. Another thing was I went through this stage and I thought I must have been about, I think it was about 23, 24. And again, this stemmed from the workout DVDs and things telling me that exercise was a way of burning fat, and the Slimming Club that told me foods were bad and also encouraged me to restrict and binge, because it was like restrict before you get weighed, binge after it. Not that I went for very long, by the way. I didn't do it for long because I think even back then I kind of thought, this is fucking bizarre. And it felt quite dated to me. So it's mad that it's still going so strong like 20 years later. But from the back of those, the next thing I did was I used to walk from the town I lived in, which for anybody who follows me locally was called Barrow, and I would walk to Ulverston, which I think is about 12 miles. And what I would do is like binge eat in the evening, thinking it's fine because in the morning I'll get up and I'll do that. So I used to work shifts at the time. So let's say I had like an afternoon shift, I'd get up at the crack of my ass and walk 12 miles, and then I might get like the bus or the train back before I'd then go on to my shift. So absolutely messed up. Like I remember my feet being in bits. Spent loads of time on my own, used to like walk through these lanes. Just, it's bizarre now when I look back. I'm like, that doesn't even feel like me. It feels like a different person. But I'd do it with my headphones in, with the sole intention of how many calories am I burning on this walk? Like, how many of the chocolate bars that I binged on last night am I now burning off? And then the last thing that was on my list of five, because it stood out as again, probably like the final thing that I did was obviously when I was a bikini competitor. So I had to go extreme, didn't I? I took it to the extreme. Already had, 8 or 9 years of really messed up behaviours around food, exercise, my body. Like my head was mashed And then I thought, I know what's a good idea. I'll compete. I'll put myself into that world where everybody's body obsessed and body fat levels obsessed, and we're weighing everything that we eat. And I'll become completely obsessed with calories. I'll exacerbate my relationship with food in terms of my anxieties around food. I'll do double cardio to burn off calories. I'll do fasted cardio. I won't have sauces on my food or anything that tastes nice. And that was the final straw when I would see again my value as a woman in my body fat levels, my muscle mass, and whether, what was, to be perfectly honest, a panel of 4 men determined that, my body was worth a medal, a trophy, whatever it was. Luckily, I only did that for a couple of years, and then I hit rock bottom from a mental health perspective and started to seek different sources of education. So then I just started to educate myself. So about 10 years ago, did my basic courses, what everybody does, the PT and the basic nutrition. But then that wasn't enough for me. I wanted to learn more. So that's when I started learning about like advanced nutrition and women's health and hormone health and all these things. And I've now spent 10 years educating myself, 10 years building my body image, doing the work, doing the courses, understanding psychology, understanding how we get here, how to get out of it, practicing it and still practicing it now. So when I say to you, I'm now in a great place with my body, I have to work at it. It's not like just there. It's like anything. It's like when you get fit, you don't just stop exercising. When you get strong, you don't just stop lifting weights. When your body image is positive, you can't just sack off all the tools that you're using to keep it that way. So there's still things that I do now that like keep that positive, things that I avoid, influences that I don't want in my life because I could feel old thoughts and feelings creeping back in. But they're the top 5, girls. And I'd be really interested to hear your stories. Can you relate to any of these? Did you go through similar experiences? Are there other things that stand out to you as, oh, I wonder why my relationship with my body is so messed up? Well, you know why if you've been engaging in this shit. Like I say, I did it for 12 years, which feels so sad to me. Like now, because I've fixed my relationship with food, with my body, with exercise, it genuinely hurts my heart. Like it could make me emotional if I connected too much to that is what I did to myself for 12 years. But some of the women I coach, most of the women I coach are in the 40s and 50s, predominantly 50s, they've spent 30, 40 years doing this. Like mental. There was one woman who said to me recently that she realised she'd spent over 30 years dieting. The average woman in the UK embarks on 16 different diet phases in their life. 95% of diets fail, as in women regain all of the weight lost and then some. And all the reasons for that are 1, because of our fucked up behaviours around food, our body and exercise, but 2, because we go after the goal of weight loss and weighing less and getting thinner and lighter, as opposed to behaviour change, where it's like, actually, I want to feel good. And to feel good, I need to look at my nutrition and my movement and my sleep and my stress management. So very interesting. If you are relating to anything I'm saying, if anything's like permeating, my message to end this podcast is no matter what pressures you feel, either internally because of the messed up relationship you got with your body, or externally because we are about to be bombarded by summer marketing, bikini shreds and 8-week bikini blitzes and all that. My advice to you is know from somebody who has been there and got the t-shirt, and from somebody who spent 10 years learning, studying, growing, and helping other women, the last thing you need is another diet. It doesn't work. 95% of them fail. 16 diets on average per woman in the UK. If it worked, we wouldn't have to do it more than once. What we need, if we are one of those women who relates to this and still isn't out of that space, is to fix our behaviours and to fix the relationship that we have with ourselves. Anyway, an interesting one. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please do give me your feedback. I would love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and as always, if you've got any suggestions on things you want me to talk about on the pod, let me know.